Hey, good morning, Marty. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. It's good to be back.
For anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
Oh, goodness. I love that open-ended question. That's fantastic. I would say I am somebody who is passionate about teaching people, particularly about the Bible. Um, I have a life mission statement that I must creatively inspire people with the truth. That's why I'm here on the earth. So I'm kind of a history nerd. I'm a context nerd. I'm a Jewish follower of Jesus. So I've got this ethnic Jewish heritage, but I wasn't raised in it. I was raised in an evangelical fundamentalist upbringing. So I got that going for me. I'm married 21 years. I got two kids, 16, almost 17, and a 15-year-old.
Wow.
So we're living the life there. I love to hunt as a hobby, and that's what I do. I lead Impact Campus Ministries. And a part of that outreach has become the podcast, which is BEMA Podcast. It's probably what I'm known for, which is basically just a journey trying to examine the way we've been taught to read the Bible and recreate potentially a better reading through a historically informed hermeneutic and lens.
Hmm.
So maybe that's the concise nutshell. There you go.
I like it. And to your point, I was introduced to you through BEMA or
Hmm.
BEMA, and it was recommended to me by a family friend, one of the guys that I went to college with, Justin Graby, his mom, Nancy Graby. She was like,
Oh,
I think
cool.
I think you'd like this. And I was like, okay, let me give it a listen. And listening to the
Sure.
older episodes and now listening back to the revised versions 8 years
Yeah.
later, I'm like, wow, it really is helping me connect a lot of dots where it came at a time where I was able to answer some questions and even give myself a shot at trying to teach and
Yeah.
being a part of a men's group prayer line that they call it. It's been around for over 20 years. And one of the things that they did with the change of the format was that get more people, get more voices involved because you had like the more senior guys that had been there since they started the group back in college. But one of the things they wanted to do was have 4 or 5 presenters Monday through Friday. Each person takes like a 10-minute slot and they present on a topic that is either personal to them or something that they can use to express faith to other people as they listen.
Cool.
And I just happened to be given the opportunity at the time that I was introduced to BEMA. And then I
Nice.
basically used that as a lead in to be like, okay, hey, here's the dogma that we're kind of talking about. But if we look at
Yep.
it from a different perspective and going back to episode one of like trusting the story,
Sure.
starting with chapter one and not leading with chapter three, it's like, let's try to shed some of the
Yeah.
shame, the guilt, and things like
Yeah.
that we've been brought up with. And it's funny kind of tying different things that happen in my world where you have someone like Kevin Samuels, where people would be like, I don't know if that guy's Christian, he's bashing women and things
Sure.
like that. But
Yeah.
he came up with this thing called sign language, which is shame, insults, guilt, the need to be right, ways
Oh,
that he would say maybe women communicate, but I could see men doing it as well. It's
oh,
basically
sure.
someone trying to win an argument in a way to where they'll push you in a corner to just basically be like, if I can label you in this way, I can dismiss your point of view and not really have to communicate with you or converse. It's basically it's my way or the highway. And it's always this power dynamic that people are
Yep.
seeking out in conversation. But being able to approach the Bible or God of all things to be like, okay, I'm allowed to ask questions.
Yes.
And also like meeting you at the time that you just written the book and being like, okay, this is someone that I can like still be able to access and make the time to be like, okay, we're humans having conversation. It's not that
Yeah.
too big. Like it might be
Yeah.
a couple years and it's like you're just getting too much volume to still be able to talk to people individually
Yeah.
like this. But I really do appreciate that opportunity and it really shines through in your work. So I got to give credit to yourself, to Brent Billings as you guys started and everyone else that you brought on the team along this journey now and just continuing to grow that platform. So every chance I get, I always mention that to people if they're curious about trying to understand what this whole Bible thing is with whatever else is going on in the world.
Yeah, no, I love that, and you're welcome, and thank you. It's this thing we've been trying to steward, and we're going to try to figure out how to keep allowing ourselves to be accessible to the right kinds of spaces because it keeps us grounded and connected to like people and names and
Yeah,
stories and not platforms. And that's hard to do if something starts to grow, but we're going to do our best to find ways to try to cut the legs out of that influencer stuff.
right. And something that you guys say at the end of every episode is to plug into a local group. And
Yeah,
having moved here in January, I finally made the step after 3 years to be like, okay, I've got my head above water. I'm
sure.
thinking clearly. Let me actually go on the website, look on the map. And I was like, okay, I found someone that was maybe an hour away. And I reached out, emailed them. And he was like, yeah, we meet virtually. And I was like, oh, perfect. Then I can
Nice.
jump on once a month and then we can connect. And I can just make myself available to be like, I don't have to have the answers, but at least I can put myself in a space where I can have dialogue and not just be like, oh, okay, I'm getting the information, so I have head knowledge, and then maybe I can answer someone's question or just like probe something
Yeah,
out there to be like, maybe like I heard something else, like something a
yeah,
little different, but not trying to be a contrarian all the time. I think it'll be
yeah,
nice to actually engage with people with something that I
yeah.
find meaning in.
Absolutely. Totally. That's part of the beauty and genius of meeting like that. Absolutely.
Awesome. And like you said, tell me a little bit about your background, how you have Jewish roots, but you weren't raised in that way. Like how was that? Because I've heard parts of it through the podcast, how
Yeah.
you basically grew up with a lot of the baggage that we grew up with. And I don't know if I mentioned last time, I'm a preacher's kid and kind of grew up with daily devotions, going to church every now and then on Wednesdays, but definitely Sunday church with the local church and then with my dad's church when it went
Yeah.
from a building and then back home and things like that. And it's just like trying to navigate your way through that and eventually going to college and being out from under the home and being like, okay, now what do I do? Maybe like Abraham trying to figure out like what's true for me and
Yeah.
not just doing what my parents told me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was always aware growing up that we had the Solomon name, the Solomon side, was a Jewish family. We have our, for almost 1,000 years, we were from at least 1,000 years. We were in Cornwall, England. So that was our heritage and our background. I knew that for a few different reasons. I can remember in junior high and high school, like doing some, we did like family history projects, like figure out where your family's from and cook some food and do a report. And so at the junior high and high school level, I had dug into and bumped into like, oh yeah, we obviously have this Jewish heritage. But my family, my parents were believers raised in a world where the typical common belief probably still is for a lot of us is that Jesus came. So why would it matter that you were Jewish? Like Jesus came and changed all that. And we dive into that eventually on the podcast. When we get to season 4, we unpack new perspective on Paul's scholarship and reading the New Testament through that lens. So that was the way. So they didn't raise me with any of that. Like it wasn't a secret. It wasn't hidden. Like I knew about it, but it was like, well, we follow Jesus. That's what we do. Which was great and gave me a lot of beautiful things. And then I was called to the ministry and went to Bible college and got the handles and studied some of the basic tools and then had my crisis of faith, my deconstruction moment, whatever you want to call that, and started pulling things apart and got connected. If I made a long story short, got connected to Ray Vanderlaan. Became one of my main teachers. Got to go over to Israel and Turkey. Started to learn all this stuff. Started to build a bibliography, and just started to study and learn, and did learn some of that new perspective on Pauline letters and theology in the New Testament and Jews and Gentiles, and it all made sense. And through none of that journey was I like self-reflecting. Like I learned all this about Jews in the New Testament, Gentiles in the New Testament. Got it, got it, got it. And then it was on one of my last tours with Ray where the group that was with me started connecting dots. And essentially, Ray was like, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to figure out at some point, you'll have students that are paying attention to what you teach.
Hmm.
And they're going to look at you one day and they're going to say, if that's what you believe, why don't you eat kosher? And you just need to know what you're going to tell them. And I just never processed it in that way before. So my family decided that was 2008, 9, 10. And we decided to reclaim that Jewish heritage and just try to live in a way that was consistent with what we understand. And our understanding could be flawed, it could be screwed up. But the best that any of us can do, the best that you and I can do, is to try to live consistent to what we understand the scriptures to be inviting us and calling us to. So that's what we did. And that's where we're at still today. And I've learned so much since then in the last 15, 20 years. Goodness, what a mess. But it's great. It's a beautiful mess, and you steward what you learn, and you do your best with what you discover, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, I I guess when you go back to like how you grew up and being called to the ministry, like what was that like for you? Because like for me, I've heard people say different things, and I guess when
Yeah,
I think about it, I'm like, okay, at 35, I can start to understand like what I'm called to do. But
yeah,
coming from a faith background and hearing a lot of people say that they're called to things and then it
mm,
being true in some sense, but then other times it's like used to
yeah,
justify whatever it is that they wanted to
yep,
do. And it's like, so long as you
yep,
say, hey, Jesus told me, God told me, it's like, okay, like, who am I to question you? Like,
yep,
sure.
yep, yeah, totally. And calling can look like a gazillion different things, right? For me, I don't come from a Pentecostal hocus pocus background. I'm not the type of person who feels like God speaks to me all the time. I'm not looking for that. I
Mm,
don't derive my spiritual energy or validation from those experiences. I can probably count them on one hand, to be honest. Like in my whole life, the kind of moments that I felt like have been pretty divine encounters. One of them was what I call my call into ministry. I was great. I was starting to own my faith as a junior, senior in high school. My faith was coming from something that my parents had me do to
right.
something that I chose to do. And I was praying during that time of my life, and I was set to go to college and play football. Like I was going to go play football. I wanted to go into law and
Mm,
political science, and that was a sense of calling. Like I thought I'm going to go make a difference in the world by being this kind of a person. Like it was driven by my faith. It wasn't disconnected from my faith. And I can remember being in church, and I was on the worship team, play drums, and it wasn't during service. It wasn't this emotional, like the preacher was preaching. We were like just waiting for service to start, just sitting in an empty sanctuary. And I just had this overwhelming sense, like I wouldn't say audible voice, but clear,
mm,
like the clarity of an audible voice. It's like I'm supposed to go into ministry. And I leaned over to my friend and I said, I think I'm going to go into ministry. He said, No, you're going to go play football. And I said, I think I'm going to ministry. And that's what I kind of followed.
mm,
And I don't lay that out as a blueprint. I wasn't trying to find that or asking for that or think for a moment that God would ever do that again for me or for anybody else. And that's the only way it works. But that was the best way that I perceived it in the moment. That's what it felt like to me. Um,
gotcha.
and it really is the only way it makes any logical sense. Like I had been at Bible college for like 6 months, almost like more than half of a school year when it finally dawned on me, kind of like what I had done. I was just kind of following this whatever you want to call it, this leading, this prompting, this voice,
Mm,
and worked out. Here we are.
yeah. Wow. And I think like when I think about that for myself, I think I can relate in a way where I can look at different moments. For me, I chose the path of civil engineering and kind
Hmm.
of to the same regards. It's like it's something I'm still able to do because 2008, that's when I was going into college, having just graduated high school.
Yep.
And basically it's like I chose a major based off of the technical electives I was able to do in high school. And it was like, okay, like you do one class, you do well in it, you enjoy it, and then you move on to the next thing and the next thing and the
Yep.
next thing. And then in high
Yep.
school, I played football, wrestled, and ran track. Eventually, like ran hurdles, was best at wrestling. And then football, I wasn't the best at. I was a wide receiver, but I had butterfingers. But it kind of
Yeah.
helped a little bit once I finally got contact. And it's like, oh, like it's a lot easier to see when everybody doesn't look like tall trees and just fuzzy.
Yeah. No
But
kidding.
like trying to separate um my faith or trying to understand like my faith that I believed in with the world of being here because like I immigrated to the US at age 7 and it's like you have the strong pull of what it is that you learned there. And it didn't
Yeah.
occur to me till later that like we may have run into a cult or something cult adjacent back
Yep.
in Cameroon at some point, and it was like took some work to get out of there. And then
Yeah.
when you kind of find yourself under charismatic leaders and things like that, where you really want to believe things, but the the attraction where there's the controversies that happen, like with the Catholic Church, or where you hear people, whether it's in church or it's like even in doing jujitsu now, there's still incidences where coach take like people that are in leadership, they take advantage of their pupils. But in all of that, I've still, like yourself, found myself in places where there's still this like wanting to know, like, okay, what more is there? Like, if I'm not told that I have to do this, if I'm not told that this is right, wrong, or indifferent, the people that might criticize me for wanting to follow this, like I'm not telling someone, hey, I'm a Christian, you should be like, I
Right.
think I try to watch your series on like evangelism, and that's always been like a challenge for me where
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know. Like I can take the quiet time for myself one on one in the morning with God,
Yeah.
like go on the walk. Nobody needs to know. I can sit in my prayer closet or just sit in my kitchen like now and say the Lord's Prayer, get more comfortable with that. But like going out and trying to convince someone, like how my dad would do it with missionary work and things like that, and really profess and proclaim, I'm like, maybe I'm just afraid of failing or seeing what's on the other side. And it may seem safer to do things where it's like it's more public viewing, it's more socially acceptable, but it's like having maybe wrestled with the idea of like, am I supposed to follow my dad's footsteps, or am I
Yeah.
supposed to still be able to minister in this way and touch people's hearts in a way that leads them back to God in the way that he wants, without being overly pushy about it and then not really being clear on who I am and what I'm trying to do, or like how I'm developing a relationship with God. It's like trying to sell someone on something that I haven't fully bought into myself. So I say all that to say the way you describe your calling and like continuing to pursue that into Bible college, and still not just kind of going along with the flow, but like having that pushback back and forth where it's like, okay, I really need this. And then it's like, okay, well, this thing that I really need, these people that I really want to talk to, that ends up birthing what becomes a BEMA. And then being able to take all that years of experience and put it into a podcast form where it's like, oh, okay, this is literally a 5 year plan lesson or 8 year plan lesson laid out. And then you're seeing in real time, or you're listening back like, oh, this is how they got through the pandemic, or this came up and that came up. And I was like, huh, like I thought it was I thought it was fine, but then hearing things revised, I'm like, huh, okay. When I'm in a different space and I'm able to listen and receive it, it's like I see what the idea that they're going for. It's like I can listen, but I still have to live life in a way and like have the fuller experience where it's like life isn't happening just in isolated silos and pockets, but it's all these things that I've experienced and all the people that I've met, they have a lot of overlap. And it's like it's not surprising where a lot of the conversations they keep highlighting faith, and it's not something that I feel like I need to run from anymore, or just be like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm weird or I'm like this. Is like, hey, I am who I am. I'm God's child. That's how I was raised. That's what I accept, and that's what I'm still wrestling with trying to understand. But at least in understanding that sinning is maybe missing the mark in what I'm aiming at, versus just it's this act, this dirtiness that I can't ever get off of me. It's like I'm letting go of the latter and trying to embrace the former. It's like I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna do my best and I'm gonna
Yeah.
give thanks to God. And I'm not just gonna keep going to like how many times can you give your life to God doing like the Lord's Prayer, where it's like I understand where it's going, but then if the
Yep.
following Sunday I'm like, okay, I want to be baptized again, I'm like, wait a minute, like
Yeah.
if I just did this here and the way that you're talking, maybe I'm hearing it in a way to where I'm like, wait, is this, am I supposed to do this every week? Or like I'm misunderstanding something. So maybe I need to like back up,
Yeah.
like get my head around this, or like get around someone that maybe understands this a little bit differently. And that that's what hearing you guys on the podcast has been able to kind of give a little bit of clarity to, and also just stop being so quick to run up under someone to just be like,
Yeah.
okay, this person is more senior, they know more than I do, so I've just got to like
Yep.
put my earplugs in, like close my eyes, put the blinders on, just be like that's all I'm going to follow. Like forget
Yep.
everything else. Like they know the truth, I don't know anything. And it's like I don't think that's the way either.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of these stories of these folks that we are really familiar with. Folks like Abraham would be a one that immediately comes to mind in the beginning of the story. And they're like incredibly ordinary people. Like as far as we know, like Abraham wasn't like he's unbelievably significant as a human being. He will be like so significant in the story, but
Hmm.
where we find him, it seems like he was part of this random family that wasn't a part of the norm, and they're kind of like traveling west, and like they're kind of just average, normal, maybe normally not normal people.
Yeah.
And then there are these moments, and as we read it, it feels like almost every time you turn the page, like Abraham and God said to Abraham, and God, but then you think about it, and you're like, wait, there's like 14 years in between those two stories.
Hmm.
There's 11 years between those stories. That was 7 years later. Like this is somebody putting one foot in front of the other, living a life that probably feels to them pretty unsensational.
Hmm.
You put that whole life together, and you see the impact that it has. And it's very significant. And I think we live in a world that sensationalizes
Yeah.
the day to day, the week to week, the high energy, the staying up, and there's a faithfulness that's just about just walk the path.
Right.
Just walk the path and wait for the next nudge and see
Mhm.
what happens. Yeah.
I like that. And I guess what's this year been like for you? And I guess we're on the back half of it now.
Yeah, let's see. Next year's going to be a little bananas. So this year's been a year of just kind of like being present, being here. You know, my kids are in high school. I travel a lot no matter what. So it's not that I've been home a whole lot, but
Mhm.
I've been trying to be home as much as I can and be present when I'm home. Next year is going to be a year of all the usual speaking engagements, but our three tours to Israel and Turkey. And then my book tour is going to launch in April. We didn't really necessarily plan all that, but 2026 is going to be a little bananas. We're going to be all over the place. So we got book number two coming out, and we're going to try to do that in a healthy way. We're not going to lose our mind, hopefully, but we got a lot of stuff filling up the calendar already. So this
Nice.
year's just been like, all right, what's next? Where can I grab? I'm going to take my daughter to Nashville. I'm going to take my wife to Vegas. I'm
Mhm.
just took my wife to Atlanta last weekend for work events, but they got to come with me, and how can we make the most out of what we got in front of us here?
Mm. I like that. And I'm guessing with the first book that you wrote, Asking Better Questions of the Bible, I think you'd shared, because when we first spoke, you just launched it
Yep,
and you were sharing just the difference in going through the marketing of it and just seeing the different style where you go from podcast long form and
yes,
then you turn it into a book that's maybe like 100 pages, no more than 100. And it's like you compile not just like 10 years plus of your life, but a whole
yep,
6 part series of here's everything that you get in the podcast, like just given to
yep,
you in this bite-sized 1 hour, 2 hour read.
yeah, yeah. That was an interesting, sometimes challenging, mostly fun and invigorating project. The second book, it's not that it wasn't fun, it was wildly different,
Mm,
which I was told it was going to be that way anyway. I
mm,
still don't have a large enough sample size to know where I just know these two experiences have been totally different. This
gotcha.
book I'm writing with one of our co-hosts, Reed Dent, one
Mm,
of my best friends, and it's a book on theology. It's going to be called The Gospel of Being Human,
mm,
published with Now Press. It's designed to be the follow-up book to Asking Better Questions of the Bible. It's essentially a book about, okay, when we ask better questions of the Bible, those better questions potentially lead us to better theology. So
mm,
let's keep asking questions, not just of the Bible, but let's keep going and look at our theology and go, okay, now that we read the Bible, potentially maybe a little bit more informed,
mm,
what does that mean about our theology that we're forming? And so that's been this project, and it's just a different book. Like the first book was, it was hard to condense it, but it was all inside of me. It was my body of work I've been working on forever. Now
mm,
you're trying to like okay, let's say some new things. Let's say more about that. And that was a different kind of writing and energy. Working with a partner was different.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was been a beautiful challenge, but I'll be interested to get this one out in the world and get away here in a few weeks to start writing the rough draft for book three. So
Oh, nice.
just gotta keep going and see what happens. We got three books in this series. We'll see if we can pull it off, and if there's a stream of consciousness that makes sense, you'll have to tell me.
I think that's pretty cool because like not my dad would always tell me that leaders are readers are leaders.
Yes.
And it was one of those, I think I still have that pin. It was like my first or second school, whether it was second grade or fourth grade, I think is Arnold Elementary in Cleveland, Tennessee. And they would give you these little tokens and things like that. And you'd always stress like reading, 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 reading. And coming from a background where it was like the Bible and education were at the forefront of like what you were taught as your
Yep.
disciplines. It was like I would find myself reading textbooks or reading the Bible and
Yep.
reading it in a way to where it's like there's this massive information that you just got to like cram
Yes.
into your
Yep.
head and it's got to get there. But it wasn't
Yep.
until being in college and kind of being introduced to motivational speaking and someone by the name of Dr. Eric Thomas, where it was like hearing him speak, I was like, okay, this is breathing life into me. And I was introduced to him by like a friend that I was working with doing a co-op. And it was like, wait, what's motivational speaking? It's like I'd heard it different times. I never knew it was this whole category where people had made a business out of it. But I found him engaging because it's like he wouldn't try to do it intentionally, but him being a pastor and also bringing those Christian principles into it into a way that was more like hip hop, lively, but it was direct to the point. It wasn't trying to woo you and just be like, oh, look, guys, I'm cool. Like I kind of got into part of the rock age where it was like, okay, there's Christian rock music, Christian rap music. Like you're trying to do things where it's like, okay, I can still sing the hymns on Sunday, but I like this because it's someone trying to be creative in their own way and just use the gifts that have been given to them. But all in that to say, when I started down the personal development track and motivational speaking and listening to those things, it introduced me to a list of like books where I could see, oh, like they have books that are 10, 20 pages long and I don't have to sit down forever. This can be something enjoyable. There's actually books that people have written that speak to different topics and just like being able to take the blinders off and make choices for myself, it really spoke to like I have a say in this and it's not just follow the school curriculum, do everything that your parents tell you, and then when you don't meet the mark, you just get shamed and kind of on to the next and on to the next woe is me type thing. It was like, okay, like this whole life thing, it's like your parents do their best to raise you up to the age of 18 and then you maybe get the boot where it's like, hey, you got to go to college. You can't go anywhere here in town. Like go spread your wings and do that. And I was like, maybe you could have done that different. But I'm like, I don't know. I haven't had kids at this point, and like now being the age that my dad was when I was born, I'm like, I think I can start to understand. At my age, it's like I was the fifth child being born, either the fifth or the sixth child, and it's like to be thinking, hey, I'm here in West Central Africa, and I'm going to
Yeah.
speak with people that come from overseas. I forget what one of the main speakers would be that would come, and then he would interpret for him, and then eventually be able to travel to Europe or travel to America, and then study for 5 years doing seminary school. It's like you really have to you really have to embrace being something different, being someone different to where it's like, I'm going to do something that's not common to everyone that I grow up around. And like,
Yeah.
I've got to embrace that. And it's like, sure, you have moments in time where you feel like you're on the top of the mountain or you're down low in the valley. And like, who you keep in your circle can either reinforce how you feel about yourself or they can call you up to wherever they are. And over 70 years of life now that they're celebrating, it's that things kind of come and change and like they're not perfect people so to speak, but it's like all in that learning, like learning to give grace. I kind of see my parents as like I see you differently and I appreciate you differently. My only hope now is that you give yourself the grace to not have to
Sure.
have this perfect image to where now we can have a relationship where we still parent and child, but as an adult child. It's like if we're going to have continued growth and conversation, it's that it can evolve, but just knowing that there's what you want, what you desire, and like the reality of things, it's like, okay, well, it is what it is. I still get to learn and grow as an individual and then build with yourself and other people that I meet and be able to do something like this podcast and just be like, okay, well, this is a part of my life that I get to share with the world. I get to provide a service, and ultimately, seeing it in a public format is very different. But saying all that to say, like, seeing you take on something that was a personal mission to you and being able to channel it into a medium where it's like a book, it's a podcast, it's something that's recorded, and then other people get to they get to digest it and kind of give you feedback on it. It is pretty neat because it's like you were saying, you didn't know where the first one was starting, and then you went two, and now you're on three, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of riding this thing out. Like
Yeah.
I'm not really making too many plans of like,
Yeah.
who is it? John Maxwell. I think he's maybe written 20, 30 books. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like you kind of describe it the same way, where it's maybe it's a bug that gets you, and then next thing you know, you just like, hey, there's another one, and there's another one. And then like being able to collaborate with one of your best friends, you have like more minds that are melding into this thing that like, hey, this is this is something that it's us in a nutshell. It's like a piecemeal, but it's something that adds to the broader conversation for those that want to um, understand their faith and really be able to have options and not just be told the world is going to hell in a handbasket and that's it. Like just
Yeah.
give up, don't try. That felt like the messaging during the pandemic 2020 and on, but like being able to create something like this and seek out other people that are really trying to support people to not take their lives or not just look at everything's bad. It's like we have options. Like the world's been around for millions or billions or whatever you believe, but it's like all in all, like it's been here before, it'll be here after we're gone. Like let's not
Yeah.
let these moments just
Yeah.
shatter everything to where, oh, that's it. That's all we can do. Like all hope is lost. It's not that serious.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I get to do what I love and people say thank you for it. And that's a pretty great gig. I'm privileged. I'm relatively spoiled. This book writing stuff, it could be a season. It may be something I do for the rest of my life. It could be a season, but there is an opportunity to what's helpful, what are helpful resources, what are helpful for just what you just said, people trying to find their way in their world.
Mhm.
Some people just trying to stay here, just keep getting up
Yeah.
and keep saying I'm going to stay here for another day. And then other people trying to figure out how do you see the world. I love what you just said. There are options.
Yeah.
There are options of how we frame reality. There are options of how we see it. And I think some of them are better than others, and some of them are right, and some of them are less accurate.
Mhm.
But how we frame the world changes how we experience it and how we take up space in it and how we show up. And that can either put the world back together or create more chaos. And
Yeah.
that's been a big passion of mine. So if these resources are helpful, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It the part where you said about learning how to take up space in the world, that has definitely been a challenge over the last 9 years. And
Yeah.
having met someone who I call like a very close best friend, she's really challenged me on that. And just being clear on, okay, you taking up space doesn't mean you need to put other people down or like block other people from having space, but you
Yep.
being a force that's in the room, it brings other people a type of comfort where it's like, okay, hey, I can relate to that person. I can have a conversation with that person and they can see me or I can see a part of myself in them. And it's like all the more reason we're glad to do life with each other and just being able to do what I do and working on major projects in engineering and just meeting people from all different types of background. It's like you really get to see the heart of people despite their behavioral characteristics and different things of that sort. And the faith aspect always seems to come through, but above all, the respect that people give each other is really something that I've been glad to see, where it doesn't matter if someone's had a bad day or not, if they felt that they were wrong or if they see that you're doing something right, they really make it a point to just say, hey, like, I just want you to know that I noticed this good thing about you. Like, kudos to your parents. They did well. And
Yeah.
every city that I've gone to, everywhere that I've lived, I've always been able to find like a surrogate mom. They're like, okay, your mom's not here, but I'm going to make sure you're taken care of and tell her
Yeah.
that I said, hey.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, is there anything you would like people to know going into the year 2026? Because this will probably come out March, and this will probably hopefully be a part of your launching campaign to um, keep people abreast of what's going on.
Oh yeah, sure. If this is coming out in March, this is great timing. So we should be launching that next book in about a month, beginning of April, I
Mhm.
believe, April 7th, something like that.
Right.
But we're going to plan on launching beginning of April, so that book will be coming. I'm sure probably by now, when they hear this, it'll be available for pre-order. All of that stuff. If it's a helpful resource, there's a gazillion other things out there too. So I think the thing that I would want people to know isn't just, hey, go buy my next book, but
Mhm.
find the resources that are helpful, use them. When you use them, I get to learn. I can tell what helps people, what is helpful for people, what people are gravitating towards, what people are using. Because we're just going to keep trying to make, because we're all doing this together. Like this
Mhm.
is, I have a part to play. Everybody else has a part to play as well. So we're just going to try to keep figuring out how do we tell better stories with our lives? How do we read the story of God better? And how do those two stories come together? And I could be coming to your neighborhood. So one of the things you can find if you dig through our website is we have a newsletter called the BEMA Messenger. That's on our BEMAevents.com page. You can sign up for that. That goes out once a month and it just tells you where I'm going to be. Chances are good I could be coming close to your neighborhood and I'd love to meet people. I think we were saying at the beginning of this interview, it's part of what keeps me grounded. I love to meet actual people, see their faces, hear their stories, get to know their names. And we usually do Q&As everywhere that I go, which is a ton of fun. Like come bring your craziest questions. And we'll wrestle with that and we'll talk about not just what to think, but hopefully how to think. I think it's just great to get together and encourage one another. You
Yeah.
encourage me when you show up to stuff like that. I get to encourage you if you show up, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out how to do. Again, part of how we take up space in the world
Mhm.
is figuring out, well, encourage people to be us, encourage people to be, I mean, one of the things I'm hearing you talk a lot about is just being comfortable with your story.
Yeah.
Like, what is your origin story? Where do you come from? Who are your parents?
Mhm.
How did they do? You made it here. And if you're here today, you're here today, to quote one of my teachers. And that's pretty great. So if we can show up together and encourage each other that that's significant, we can figure out what that means for hopefully the world around us, people that need us, and a world that needs us to show up and help do a little bit of repair work, put the world back together.
I like it. And for social media, it's BEMA discipleship on all platforms.
Let's see here. It's a little bit different because handles were taken, but if you go to BEMAdiscipleship.com, you can get
Mhm.
all of our socials. MartySolomon.com is all of my socials that people can find there. We're on all kinds of things, YouTube channel, all that stuff. So those two websites, BEMAdiscipleship.com, MartySolomon.com, should get you just about everywhere you want to go.
Got you. And I guess it's funny because initially when I tried looking for the podcast, I was like, oh, hey, this is actually one of the few podcasts that are actual like podcast strictly audio form.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. By the time this launches, we're talking about right now, like we've got to incorporate we're trying to reach college students is one of our main focuses. And
Mhm.
we've got to have some video component is what
Yeah.
the data tells us. So we're trying to learn, we're trying
Yeah.
to grow.
We'll see the
and we're trying to
shenanigans that happen
figure
in the
it out.
studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got to figure it out. Yeah.
Cool. And if I could share, I don't know if you've maybe come across this, but one resource that I found helpful to me was like in running into like Jordan Peterson through like the Joe Rogan podcast and just seeing a lot of the clarity that he gave to thought and how to take up space in the world and not feel like you don't belong or matter was one of his friends from Canada is YouTube is Symbolic World, and he
Oh,
talks about like the visual aspect of things and becoming an icon carver and how they
oh
kind of
wow.
grew
Okay.
up there. But
Sure.
his brother or his name is uh and how am I blanking on his name? Jonathan Paggio is his name.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
then his brother's Matteo Paggio. And I just grabbed his book because his first book was called The Language of Creation. And
Okay.
just being able to pair BEMA,
Sure.
listening to the podcast, listening to your book, and reading it from where he's sharing like the picture visual aspect of
Yeah,
like, okay,
sure.
here's how I trained in mathematics, but here's why I left school to go work the ground, essentially,
Okay.
almost like
Yeah.
Cain, to be like, okay, how
Yep.
can I physically understand what's going on here
Yep.
versus just being able to intellectualize what's going on in my head and to being
Yep.
able to see how the patterns in the world that have always been around continue to be here and like seeing it in the Bible. It's like you said, it's not a science book, but it's something that's greater than that. And it took
Yeah.
many people a lot of processes and times through like Dead Sea Scrolls and things like that to actually be able to document a way of thought, a way of life, and all these things, and just seeing like different angles from which people like share the knowledge. It's like, oh, okay, like this isn't what I thought it was. It's there's a reason why it still reverberates through time and it has those echoes that just, oh, okay, like I can see it now. These were not dumb people. These were very intelligent people, and like we're intelligent in our own way, but being able to bridge the gap between the worlds like through time long ago and then now to the present, it's like, okay, weird things are happening, but we're not in bad times. Like in the
Sure.
beginning,
Sure.
if we begin with God, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more of a natural cosmic perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah. But
I love that. No, I had not heard. I think I've heard of the name potentially,
mhm,
but I'd not necessarily run into that to that platform. So it's wonderful.
yeah, just thought I'd share that with you and
Sure.
let you do with it what you will.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you again for your time today. This was a pleasure being able to catch up, have a bit of a longer conversation, and hopefully this goes on to encourage people to take it on in their lives, check out what you do, continue to listen and follow for more things to come in the future.
Absolutely. No, I think that sounds great. So thanks a lot for having me.
You're very welcome. Best of luck on the book tour and everything else that's coming to you in 2025, 2026.
Absolutely. Will do.